It's Rick with Tropical Barbecue Market down here, 206 South Olive in West Palm. We're here today in the kitchen at the barbecue market. We're sending out some big catering orders, and I wanted to take a second to talk about the Florida thing. So, Florida barbecue isn't really something that we created with Tropical so much as we wanted to give it a home. I was cooking in South Florida for about a decade before Tropical, and what I noticed is that there's a lot of things going on here that are barbecue-esque. There's also a lot of historical events in the barbecue timeline that are significant to Florida, such as the first observation of live fire cooking, which was observed on something called became known as the bucan, which is basically just a wooden rack over a smoldering fire where things were cooked slowly and imparted a smoky flavor to it. That method was adapted to the pigs that some of the first Europeans brought over in St. Augustine. So both the first pigs and the first barbecue were happening here in Florida long before American regional barbecue really fleshed out in the southeast. So that historical context, married with all of the cultural points here, we have all of the beautiful Latin and Afro Caribbean influence. There's 500 years of food fusion here in South Florida in particular. So we wanted to showcase all of that in a way, tie it all together, all of those stories and interesting techniques and ingredients into a familiar format, barbecue. So we kind of started that as our storyline, and what came to pass was our first menu that was very heavily influenced by that narrative. We have smoked fish, we have chicken, turkey, a lot of pork. We weren't really doing brisket and ribs in the first menu. We definitely worked really hard to be able to offer that, but that wasn't part of our original offering because we wanted to just start with that as our jumping off point. So, to complement all of that, all of our sides come into play. So, some of the things are very Floridian, and for that matter, even like our smoked fish dip is something that like you'll see smoked fish dip in like any kind of bar here in South Florida, from Daytona all the way to the Keys. That's like a very common thing. We do that because it fits into what we do, and we love to use the smoker. We smoke wahoo, kingfish, Spanish mackerel, all of those good steaky and fatty fish that make really good smoked fish. We get that to turn into fish dip, and then we started to expand on that, smoking mahi. We brought salmon to the menu not because it's a local fish, but because it's a very familiar fish that people really enjoy. The fat content of salmon also, it really is conducive to the smoker as well. So the smoked fish component was very kind of prevalent. But back to the sides was where we were really able to flesh out that sense of place to our menu. So one of the things that I really enjoyed eating here in West Palm was going to places that serve like jerk chicken or serve ropa vieja, and having rice, beans, peas, plantains, yuca, all of those types of things that, if you're not from this far south, you're probably not familiar with. Like if you're eating barbecue in Georgia, Tennessee, the Carolinas, Texas, you're not going to see a whole lot of those things. So it was kind of our local flavor here, and it married so well into our barbecue. And then we did a couple things to kind of make a bridge there. For instance, the mojo pork. We do a pulled pork like all barbecue joints, but we use a mojo marinade on ours, which is a citrus garlic marinade. Um, it's very affectionately known by a lot of locals as mojo pork, which sounds very Bayou, Louisiana, New Orleansy. But mojo is something that is a very simple idea that's using a very flavorful marinade to cook with, and then also to season the food as well. So we base that off of onions, bell peppers, cilantro, tons of garlic, oregano, cumin, a lot of sour orange juice, and that kind of gives us a really distinct flavor to our pulled pork. Um, we also like the idea of jerk. So we have a smoked turkey breast that we do a jerk rub, and that kind of goes well with like white rice, coconut peas, and jerk turkey. So, for instance, the pork we do black beans, yellow rice, and sweet plantains with it. So those are very kind of, for me, like that's the vibe here in South Florida is like you've had those types of things. Um, like even Haitian places that serve griot and pickles, and all of those flavors are so good, and salty, fatty meats with kind of sweet and sour and spicy sides that all really work together. And it's kind of what created our menu here. So all of that came together in the food sense. And then at the same time, what we wanted to do was just bring better barbecue to the scene here in West Palm. There's tons of backyard barbecue. There's tons of commercial barbecue here. There's tons of family-owned barbecue. It's all good stuff. Blue Front was the first experience that I had when I came to West Palm. That sauce is so unique, and we actually do a riff on that for our Florida Fire sauce. But across the board, the quality was something that we wanted to focus on. So that's when we started really um, focusing on our sourcing to bring prime grade brisket, to bring heritage pork, air chilled chicken, Scottish salmon, like those types of things. We're just bringing better proteins to the mix, and good groceries makes great barbecue was kind of the motto there. So we started working on sourcing good quality ingredients to incorporate into this menu that had local flavors, but also elevated barbecue in terms of its quality. So that's why we like to say that we're Florida's craft barbecue, because our cooking technique combined with our sourcing is what really represents the quality of our food overall. And I think that that really resonates with a lot of people. And we're really lucky to be able to be standing here in our second West Palm location and working ahead into our third, which will be in Delray Beach coming next year.